Have you ever wondered, what makes a thing exist? This seemingly simple question has haunted philosophers for millennia. Throughout antiquity, Western philosophy, dominated by the great mind of Aristotle, assumed that much of what we mean by an object, the essence, already includes its existence. But then, in the 10th century, from the flamboyant heart of the Persian Islamic Empire, a man of many talents, Avicenna, made a groundbreaking analysis that shook the foundations of millennia of metaphysics and forever changed the way we think about God and the universe. Avicenna refused to accept this confusion. He declared emphatically, essence, the pure definition, the what of a thing, must be completely independent of existence, the fact that it exists in reality. Imagine you are thinking of a dragon. You can define it: winged, scaly, fire-breathing. This essence is perfectly clear in your mind. But does that definition make it jump off the page and appear before you? Absolutely not. Existence, according to Avicenna, is not part of essence, but a contingent event assigned to it. It is like painting a chair red. The chair does not need to be red to be a chair. And its being does not require existence. What does this mean? It means that everything you see around you, trees, people, planets, are incomplete entities. Their being cannot create existence on its own. They are contingent existence, always needing an external cause to push them from possibility to actuality. This chain of dependence leads Avicenna to an inevitable conclusion. And this is the height of his curiosity. If everything is dependent, then the chain cannot continue forever. There must be a source, a stopping point. It is the essential being, Wajib al-Wujud. This being is God, whose essence is his existence. He cannot help but exist. Existence is not an attribute added to him, but his very essence, his very definition. By separating being and existence, Avicenna created an extremely powerful logical device. He not only provided a new proof for the existence of God, but also provided a framework for rationally explaining the fundamental difference between the infinite creator and the finite created universe. This was a bold move, establishing a completely new metaphysics, a foundation of thinking that Western philosophy would grapple with and eventually adopt, making Avicenna the silent architect of later scholastic thought. This division was the secret door that opened the door to the greatest philosophical debates in history. From metaphysics to theology and psychology, shaping the entire intellectual stream that followed. Avicenna's philosophical legacy can be likened to a great river flowing through two civilizational continents, profoundly influencing both Islamic and medieval European philosophy. In the Islamic world, Avicenna consolidated and shaped orthodox Islamic philosophy, creating Avicennanism, a comprehensive system that challenged and often replaced the purely Aristotelian schools. His influence extended to later thinkers such as al-Ghazali, who, although he vehemently criticized his philosophical views, especially the eternity of the world and the theory of dispersion, in his work The Deconstruction of the Philosophers, nevertheless demonstrated the importance and dominance of Avicenna's system among scholars. Al-Ghazali's criticism sparked a debate that lasted for centuries, forcing thinkers to reposition the role of reason and divine experience in Islam. Furthermore, Avicenna's metaphysical concepts were adopted and transformed by illuminationist philosophers such as Suhrawardi. who placed light and enlightenment at the center of metaphysics, but retained the hierarchical structure of existence. However, Avicenna's seminal influence was in Europe. Through Latin translations from 12th century Spain and Sicily, his core ideas were introduced to Christian scholars. These translations, especially the metaphysical section of Kitab al-Shifa, Metaphysica Avicennae, provided a new philosophical framework, more powerful and systematic than what they had known from Aristotle, whose original work had only been partially recovered. Avicenna became Aristotle's second teacher. Specifically, the distinction between being and existence resolved a central theological problem of Christianity: how to understand a God who is the infinite, eternal creator. While all created things are finite and dependent, the most important scholar to adopt and transform this philosophy was Thomas Aquinas. Aquinas used Avicenna's being, existence distinction to build one of the greatest legacies of scholastic philosophy. Aquinas agreed that for created entities, being and existence are distinct, and that existence must be given by a supreme being. In fact, Avicenna's argument for necessary being even became the basis for Aquinas' Third Way, argument from contingency, in his proofs for the existence of God. Aquinas, however, changed the meaning of esse from an accidental attribute, as Avicenna proposed, to the act of being, elevating it to the highest metaphysical concept, a subtle but important revision. Avicenna's legacy also extended to psychology, where his theory of the soul as an immaterial, self-aware substance, best exemplified by the famous thought experiment of the floating man, has provided the basis for many discussions about the nature of consciousness and individual awareness. In short, Avicenna was more than just a philosopher. He was a great cultural bridge who processed, synthesized, and systematized philosophical thought in a unique way. His system of logic and metaphysics dominated education in both East and West for centuries, posing fundamental questions about the nature of existence and the role of the Creator, profoundly shaping the philosophical and theological thinking we know today. In addition to his revolution in metaphysics, Avicenna's genius also shone brightly in the fields of philosophy of mind and psychology, a field in which he developed a sophisticated and famous argument, the floating man argument. This argument is an intuitive thought experiment, intended to demonstrate that the soul or individual self is an immaterial substance, independent and distinct from the body. Avicenna challenges us to imagine a man created instantly, fully grown, but suspended in the air, without contact with any material object, and with his senses completely obscured, unable to see, hear, smell, taste, or feel any part of his body, in a state of complete isolation from the material world and even from his own body. Avicenna argued, the man would still be absolutely conscious of his own existence. He would know that, I am. This argument was seen as a powerful demonstration that knowledge of the self does not come from sensory experience or awareness of the physical body, but is an innate truth due to the very nature of the soul. The soul, or self, must therefore be a self-existent substance, independent of physical organs. This contribution of Avicenna was of great significance, laying the foundations for dualism of mind and body, and influenced later Western philosophers. especially René Descartes in his argument of I think, therefore I am, cogito ergo sum. Although Descartes' argument focused on the certainty of thinking, while Avicenna's focused on the self-awareness of the soul as an independent being. Avicenna's mastery did not stop at establishing the independence of the soul. His entire philosophical project was a great effort to reconcile Aristotelianism with the Islamic doctrine of revelation. Using the theory of emanation, a necessary logical chain from God, the necessary being, to the material world, he attempted to rationally explain the process of creation without violating the simplicity and uniqueness of God. He regarded philosophy as the twin sister of religion, believing that both aimed at the same truth, and that the task of the philosopher was to demonstrate by reason what the prophets had revealed. He asserted that the world was eternal in terms of causality, because the necessary being was always active, but was created sequentially, according to the chain of emanation, a complex attempt to find a compromise between opposing schools of thought. In short, Avicenna's legacy lay not only in the construction of a comprehensive philosophical system, but also in the creation of a new metaphysical language. He was a master of synthesis who transformed complex Greek ideas into incisive logical tools, which he used to shape not only Islamic theology but also provided the intellectual foundation for the development of Western scholastic philosophy. From the fundamental distinction between being and being to demonstrating the immateriality of the mind, Avicenna stands as an unshakable pillar, raising the most fundamental questions about the existence and nature of the soul that we still debate today. Avicenna's philosophical legacy culminated in his exploration of the human mind, not as a mere academic exercise but as an insight into our very nature. If the being distinction demonstrated that our physical bodies are contingent and perishable, his levitation man argument was a definitive affirmation of the non-physical existence of the core self. This thought experiment, one of the greatest precursors to theories of consciousness and mind-body duality, showed that even when completely cut off from all sensory and bodily perception, self-awareness still exists. Avicenna's profundity lies in his ability to translate philosophical ideas into metaphysical realizations of the inner self. When we apply this philosophy to our daily lives, we realize that our soul, or mind, is a much more independent and eternal entity than the social or material roles we assume, such as career, reputation, or possessions. These roles are contingent entities, dependent and subject to change. In contrast, the self-mind was demonstrated by Avicenna to be a self-existent entity, not bound by physical destruction. This realization is a powerful source of spiritual liberation, freeing us from absolute identification with matter and the fear of loss. Because our core value lies in another aspect of existence. Avicenna's theory teaches us a core lesson: existence is a gift, not a necessity. Everything except the ultimate source is placed in a state of contingency. This understanding is not only theological, it is also the basis for psychological health, leading to a deeper gratitude and a more humble attitude. When we stop taking existence for granted and start seeing it as a continuous act of giving, we live more consciously and appreciate each moment, thereby achieving inner peace. Avicenna's legacy is more than just ancient books. It is a guide to personal consciousness. He became a great intellectual bridge, transmitting not only medicine but also a sophisticated system of reasoning about the nature of mind and consciousness that we are still discovering. The questions Avicenna asked, about the relationship between being and being, about the immateriality of the mind, remain at the heart of modern philosophy of mind and metaphysics, inviting each of us to seek answers about the profound meaning of being ourselves in this vast universe.